People always ask me how much should I spend on Facebook ads? The answer lies in your contribution margin target. That's the North Star metric. How do you calculate it? Let's get into it. Okay, so we're first going to look at how do you know what your max CAC is for a new customer in order to be first order profitable? So you got to look at your contribution margin at a unit level. So what is contribution margin? It's essentially your AOV less your cost less the CAC gives you your contribution margin. So if you look on the right side here, this is just a rough example. So you take your average order value of 150. It costs you, say, $35 in terms of cost of goods sold, another $10 for shipping, picking, packing. You can factor in returns and credit card fees also, just so you have a better net picture. The cost is $52 to get your product to a customer's door. Again, it's only the variable costs that it takes to get the product to a customer. If you minus 150 from 52, your available contribution margin is 98, which gives you a gross margin of 66%. And if you have a target of, say, $23, then you know that the maximum you can spend to acquire a new customer is 75. So the remaining contribution margin profit is the 98 minus 75. The next slide will give an example on how to calculate your ad spend target, but this is just helpful to know like what your max CAC is on an order basis. Again, just remember that the contribution margin only covers the variable costs. You still have to cover your fixed costs. That's where the repeat revenue comes into play. This is only looking at new customer revenue. If your repeat revenue can cover your operating expenses, then the rest of the money that you make from new customers is just gravy, as long as your CAC is below your targets and you're hitting your contribution margin threshold. So now this is the most important. How do you determine your ad spend? How much do you spend on Facebook ads? You got to work backwards and basically decide what your goal contribution margin is. In this example, I'm just assuming you have a gross margin of 60%. I like to look at only new customer revenues. So aMER, which is just your acquisition marketing efficiency ratio. This is your total new customer revenue divided by your total ad spend. So you decide what that aMER target is, but you first need to decide what is the goal contribution margin. In this example, this is the formula I should use. So if I'm assuming I have a 60% margin and I want a 30 contribution margin, so you do 1 divided by the gross margin minus your desired contribution margin of 30% will give you 1 divided by 30, which gives you like a 3.3x target for your aMER, which is your target ad spend. So, sorry, so you have to back up and be like, okay, if you want to hit 200K in sales, your spend can be 60K, which is basically 200 divided by 60, which is 3.3. You have a sales goal. Okay, so now at least you have a frame of reference in terms of if you want to hit 200K, how much should you spend? It's basically saying you should spend 60K if your desired contribution margin is. What it means is to actually get that 30% contribution margin. If you spend 60, you need to drive a 3.3 aMER. So your ads or your like ROAS from the 60K needs to be at 3.3x because that's all the new revenue you're going to drive from the 60K in spend. Okay, if it's not possible, maybe you accept either a lower contribution margin or lower the target, or if it's better, then yeah, you can spend more, drive, more volume at the same 30%. So you can make a sensitivity table for the different levels, spend aMER and a desired contribution margin to see which makes sense for your business. But this way, if you use this formula, at least you have a baseline for, if you want to hit 30% CM, that, and your target's 200, you can spend up to 60K as long as you're driving that 3.3x because, 60 into 200. So you'll still hit the revenue target and then you'll net out your desired CM. But yeah, that's it.